Good morning. So this morning we're going to be tackling the evil long division algorithm, and I call it the evil long division algorithm because a lot of people get freaked out by long division because it doesn't follow the same sort of straightforward setup when it comes to how it looks as all of the other things you've done. Multiplication, subtraction, addition. This one looks different and it messes people up because of that. But if you understand the steps and you are careful, and you shouldn't have a problem. We're going to start slow, and I'm pretty sure none of you have seen this before, but you're going to see it a lot more, in grades 6, 7, and 8, and so forth. 5, 6, 7, and 8. So we're going to start with what an algorithm is. If you remember what we talked about in multiplication, and basic, we're talking about rules or steps we follow in math to order to complete a calculation correctly. So that's sort of what an algorithm is. It's basically a set of instructions. All right. So we're going to try and follow these instructions, see if we can get them done. So let's take a look at a simple division problem. So this is 25 divided by 5. Now, you don't need an algorithm to figure this out because you know your math facts and know that 5 goes into 25 5 times because you've studied your math families. 5 times 5 is 25. So you know that one. However, if we make it more difficult by adding an extra 5 in, then it becomes trickier because we can't do that sort of a thing. Most of us can't do something like that in your head. And it might even get more complicated if we add another number in. It becomes even more tricky to do something like that in your head. So we're going to backtrack a little bit and take a look just at this question here. So we're going to do 255 divided by 5 using the long division algorithm and how it works. So I'm going to show you how it works. So this basically, first of all, I want to talk a little bit about what the parts of a division question are called. So the big number that goes in front of a division question is called a dividend. And then the next number, the smaller number, the number you're dividing into the dividend, that's called the divisor. And in a division question, the answer, you probably remember, if you think about addition, the answer to an addition question is called the sum, and the answer to a subtraction question is called the difference. And the answer to a multiplication question, I'm not sure if you know this, but it's called the product. While in division, it's called the quotient. So that's pronounced quotient. Don't worry, I'm not going to ask you to spell it anytime. So, but it is called the quotient. That's just for your knowledge. I'm not going to test you on it or anything, but going forward, if someone says, what's the quotient? That's what they're talking about. So anyway, the first thing we need to do with a division question is we cannot have it in this format. In long division, we use a different type of format to set this question up. We flip the question around and we put it under a long division bracket, and it looks like this. So that's your long division bracket. We're going to flip these two numbers around. The 255 goes in this side of the bracket, and the 5 goes on this side of the bracket. So it ends up looking something like this. So this is sort of how you would write out a long division question. I'm not sure if you've seen something like that, but this is the way it goes. So first step that I'd like you to do, and I would really recommend doing this, and this is sort of funny because I never taught this way up until last year or 2 years ago. And a student showed me that this is the way they do it. And I'm like, oh my goodness, that's so brilliant. I'm going to teach it that way from now on. So I changed my practice because of a student that I had who showed me, I guess his parents showed him how to do this way. And I'm like, that is genius. So it makes it a lot easier. So basically what it involves is creating a table beside your long division question of your divisor and skip counting with your divisor. So I'm going to write the numbers 1 through 10 here, and then I'm just going to skip count with my divisor 10, 15, and so forth, all the way down until it looks like this. All right. So what I've basically done is written down all my 5 times tables without saying 1 times 5, 2 times 5. I've just written them down. So this is the first one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and up to 10. All right. That's going to actually, I really only have to go up to 9, but that will make my job with long division a lot easier. And let me explain how. First of all, I'm going to use this little green box. When you do long division, I would recommend using a piece of paper or hand. And what you're going to do is you're going to cover up the whole number and then pull it back until you see a number here that you know the 5 can divide into. All right. So for example, 5 will not divide into 2. There are no 5s in 2. 2 is too small. If I pull it back one more, 5 into 25, yes, that works. So I can go 5 into 25. 5 into 25, I'm going to backtrack here because this is going to be confusing for you. So 5 into 25 goes, I know, if I count, go to 25 here, there's my 25, it goes in 5 times. So I'm going to write my quotient, my answer to my long division goes above the bracket. So I'm going to write 5, and I'm going to put it above the 25. So 5 into 25 goes 5 times. So the first step in long division is dividing the divisor into the first part of the dividend that it will go into. All right, so it doesn't go into 2, it goes into 5. So at 5 into 25 goes 5 times, and I might use my chart to figure out it goes in 5 times. That totally works. So once I do that, I am going to find the product of this 5 and 5. So 5 times 5, I have to multiply my answer by my divisor, and I'm going to put my answer to that down here. So that's all very confusing, but basically what I'm doing, and this is partly why division is so confusing. I do this, then I put it up here, then I do this, and then it goes down here. All right, so there's this weird cycle thing going on. So when I figure out how much 5 goes into 25, I put the answer up here. I multiply this by this. All right, so my next step is multiplication. 1 minute here. Select. So I divide, I multiply, and then my 25, which is 5 times 5, goes underneath the other 25, and it's going to look something like this. All right, so I'm still blocking out that 5, you'll notice. So I've divided 5 into 25. I've gotten 5. I put my answer up here. Then I go multiply that by that, which gives me 25, and I put that answer underneath. Now, there's a reason that I do that. The reason I do that is when I divide 5 into 25, I know this is not my final answer. That's only accounting for part of my answer. So I have to take away this part of my answer and figure out what's left, and then see how many times the 5 goes into what's left and combine it with this 5. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you. The idea is you're breaking this 255 into numbers that are manageable that you can actually divide into. All right, hopefully that makes sense to you. So far, I'm just going to go back here and grab this. So I've divided 5 into 25, get my answer up here. I've multiplied 5 by 5, put the answer down here. Now I have to take away what I've got so far from my original answer so I can divide the 5 into what's left. So the third step is subtract. Right, so I'm going to subtract 25 from 25, which is going to give me 0, and then we're going to see what we have left. So now 25 from 25 is 0. So what do I do now? Well, I don't need this green box anymore. I'm going to be dealing now with what's left over. This last 5 is what I'm dealing with. So in order to figure out how many 5s goes into here and what I'm due next, I'm going to take this 5 and move it down here so I can extend the problem. Now, I know you're thinking, why wouldn't I just go 5 into 5? Why do I have to bring it down here? Well, there's a reason. There's my 5, there's my multiply. There's a reason for that, and the reason is that I've created a pretty straightforward problem for you here where the 5 goes into 25 evenly, but say this was a 6. If this was 26, and I said, well, I got 5 5s, that gives me 25, I subtract, I get 1. Well, if I just went 5 into 5 as 1 and put the answer up here, then I'm not counting for this 1 down here. So I would have to count for whatever when I've got my difference here when I subtract, plus this 5. So what I need to do is take this 5 and rewrite it down here, and that's called bringing down. Okay, we call that bring down. So I'm going to bring down my 5 and put it beside the 0. Don't need this. So here's the steps I've done so far, right? I've divided the 5 into 25, written it up here. multiplied this 5 by this 5, written it down here. I've subtracted, and then I've brought the 5 and written it down here. And I would recommend, in fact, I would suggest you have to write an arrow showing that you've brought it down. The reason that is when you start to get numbers that are longer here, when your dividend gets longer, sometimes it's really easy to miss a number and bring down the wrong number. So this shows you that you've brought down that number. That 5 has been accounted for. All right. Now you're just going to repeat these 4 steps. So I would suggest making a silly sentence using DMSB. If you can't remember this, come up with some way of memorizing these 4 steps. So now I'm going to divide the 5 into the 5, right? I know, well, this is pretty straightforward. I think you all know there's 1, 5, and 5, right? And I'm going to write that 1 up here. There's my 1. Now I can multiply my 1, the answer I got, by my 5. So I'm repeating the multiplication step, 1 times 5. I'm going to write that answer down here. Wait a minute here. I'm just going to move this over, make it a little nicer looking. And now I got to underline it. So I got to get it like this. There we go. That looks nicer. Okay, so now I'm going to subtract again. And 5 from 5 obviously is 0. And now have I got any more numbers to bring down? I do not. So I am in fact done my question. All right, so I've brought the 5 and I've got 0. And because that's a 0, we say the remainder is 0. Sometimes this isn't so neat and you get a number here that's like a 3 or a 2. The 5 won't go into it, but it's still there. So we have to account for it. So what we've got now is 51 remainder 0. We write the R to say remainder 0, and that in fact is your answer. All right, so I know it's a lot of steps. You just have to try and remember this thing and do your best. We're going to try it again with this question. So I'm going to put my little reminder over here. So the first thing I'm going to do, 400 to 682. First thing I'm going to do is my multiplication, skip counting. I'm just going to skip count here. 16, 20, 24, 28, 32, 36, and 40. So I've just got my 4s there ready to go. Now I'm going to do this. So I'm going to make a little box here so that we know what we're going to be dividing into. And I'm going to color this box, but I'm also going to make it a little transparent so we can see through it a little bit. And you can see the numbers on the other side. So I'm going to pull this over, cover the whole number. So first thing I do is pull it a little sideways. Will 4 go into 6? In fact, this time 4 does go into 6. It goes in once, right? There's 1, 4, and 6. Now it doesn't go in evenly, but it does go in. So, whoops, I'm going to make this smaller font. What have I got here? This is 36. I'm going to make this 36 just to make it a little easier to line up. There we go. So it goes in 1 time. So there's my 1, and I always put it above the number that in the dividend that I've just used. I'm going to make it red so we can understand what we're looking at here. So now I have done the dividing piece. I've got 4 divided into 6 equals 1. All right, so that's the dividing piece. Now I have to do the multiplication. 1 times 4 is 4. Put the answer here. Now I'm doing the subtraction. 4 from 6 is 2. All right, so 4 from 6 is 2. Now I have to pull this away and look at what I've got next. I've got an 8. Now this is different than the one we just did because I have 2 numbers here I can bring down. I'm going to bring down the 8. I don't bring them both at the same time. I'm going to bring down my 8. So now I'm going to make my arrow blue. So now I've got my 8 that I've brought down. It's not really lined up a little better. So now I've done the bring down. Now I'm going to repeat. Divide 4 into 28. Well, 28 is pretty big, so I'm going to look down here. Where's my 28? There it is. 4 into 28 goes 7 times. So I'm just going to stick a 7 here above the 8, right? So now I've got 7 times 4. I've done the division. 7 times 4 is 28. So my 28 underneath here. Subtract. So now I'm going to do the subtraction bit. 28 from 28 is 0. Now I've got one more number I have to bring down, and I'm bringing this down a lot further, all the way down here. All right, so I brought the 8 down to here. I have to bring the 2 all the way down past the 28s beside this 0 here. So my 2 is going to go here. And the next question is, does 4 go into 2? So you might think, oh, it doesn't go into 2. That's it, we're done. Well, no, because you've got a space above this 2. And if you think logically, 4 into 682 can't be 17. You must have made some sort of mistake there. So 4 goes into 2. Well, how many 4s are in 2? Well, I got no 2 here. There are 0 4s in 2. So I'm actually going to put 0 beside my 107, or sorry, my 17. So 0 here, that's my division. 4 into 2 goes 0. 0 times 4 is 0. Any number times 0 is 0. And now I'm going to do my subtraction. I know this seems silly because you're thinking, well, why do we do this? Because I know that 4 into 2 goes 0. But it's in order to make sure you don't miss that step. Now I subtract and I get 2 at the end. Now I can see that my answer is 170 remainder 2, or R2, to show that 4 goes into 682 170 times with 2 remaining. So you can do this sort of division problem, and it doesn't matter how big your dividend is. It could be 10 digits long. You just keep bringing down. In fact, you might want to challenge yourself to see if you can get a big number in there. You just keep bringing down, and you just keep dividing. And it's the same 4 things every single time: divide, multiply, subtract, bring down. Absolutely recommend doing this. It will make your life a lot easier, because when you start getting numbers like 28, or maybe numbers like 54, well, 54 is too big, like 34. So if I was going to do 4 into 34, I just go, well, 32, 34 is in the middle of here, which means it's got to be 8, right? It just makes your life a lot easier when it comes to doing that. Anyway, I know this is really tricky. We're going to go over this quite a bit. I have a video that you can watch to help you, and then maybe try some easier ones on Mathletics, and then we'll leave it at that for today.